And she folds ace queen.
Full house? Are you serious?
What?
What?
All right.
That is spooky.
All right, guys, we're out here. PCA 2019. We just got done playing the $25,000 two-card Pot Limit Omaha tournament, and debatably one of the sickest hands that I think we've seen in poker in a long time took place yesterday. Actually, is a conspiracy theory going on here because a lot of people got in touch with me on Twitter and Instagram and said, please investigate. Did she actually call when she flipped her cards over and said, yep, so we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the hand. We're going to take a look at what she said, her comments, and Polychronopoulos' comments as well, too. Try to say that 10 times fast. So let's get in the hand. Let's get into the action. Let's see what took place. All right, so we're going to take a look at the hand first, and then we'll go over the hand, talk about some comments, and talk about what Thi said. All right, so the hand takes place between Thi Nguyen, Polychronopoulos. Here's the hand in question. We're getting this information over at Poker News. Big shout out to Poker News for doing some great work. So Thi Nguyen opens the button, and Polychronopoulos 3-bets in the big blind to 37,000, and then Nguyen's gonna call with that ace queen. Flop comes down king, 9, queen, 2 spades. So not the best flop for aces, but still an okay flop. Polychronopoulos decides to check, and then Nguyen decides to check. Turn is the queen of hearts. Now things get interesting as Nguyen has made trip queens. Polychronopoulos checks, and then Nguyen decides to go with that really, really small $17,000 bet, the FU bet. You guys know in these tournaments, it's they love betting this really small sizes, guys. Not a very common thing we see in the great game, Pot Limit Omaha cash games, but you know, I'm just getting used to it. A lot of FU bets going down here. So Polychronopoulos does check call. River is the ace. What a sick card. Completes the full house for Nguyen and also makes the full house for Polychronopoulos. And Polychronopoulos checks now, and Nguyen goes for a little bigger bet, bets about 50,000 into a pot of 110,000 chips total with the antes out there. So she decides to bet 50,000 into a pot of about 110 to 120. She's got about 153,000 chips behind. And then Polychronopoulos shoves. So Polychronopoulos checks flop, check calls turn, and then check jams the river.
Clearly a big decision for Thi Nguyen.
I like the intense camera angles, the zooming in, changing.
Dramatic zoom.
And she folds ace queen.
Full house?
Whoa.
And Polychronopoulos shows aces.
What?
He had a better full house. What an inspired fold.
Are you serious?
What?
What?
All right.
That is spooky.
And then Nguyen went deep into the tank, and in the video we're seeing right here, it looks like she folds pretty quickly, but it does say on here that she went several minutes into the tank, and then she says, yeah, flips her hand over. Everyone in the commentators are stunned. They're like, wait, she folded a full house? What just happened here? And then Polychronopoulos shows the aces, and everybody in the entire poker world freaks out. So first of all, let's talk about this river play here, because like I said, I love conspiracy theories, and people out there have been sending me messages saying, I think she called. Now, to me, I've never heard somebody say yep and then call.
And she fold. And she fold. And she folds.
Played a lot of poker in my time. I've watched a lot of poker in my time. Usually when somebody says I call, they're gonna call, they say call, they don't say yep. So if you talk with her or if you talk with Polychronopoulos, you can see that no one at the table thought it was a call, or Polychronopoulos didn't think it was a call. Maybe someone else at the table thought it was a call. So if we really break down the footage here, to me, I see nothing that says that I'm calling here. I see a more of a, this is fucking sick. I'm pretty sure this guy's got aces or kings. Would he ever be bluffing me here? I don't think so. Does he have a better, would he have king queen here? Probably not. He probably plays king queen a little bit differently. If he happens to have king queen and he does check raise me in this river, then you know what? I made an awful fold. But talking with her husband a little bit, who I played on one of the days, and he was one of the most fun players I actually played with. He's a very fun player. Shout out to Jimmy, man. And I talked with him a little bit. I said, hey, you know, what's up with that hand? That fold's crazy. That fold's sick. And he said she's played cash games for a bunch of years and very good live hand reading skills, and just knew he had kings or aces. And I think sometimes in that situation. You know, Doug Polk out there, Doug Polk, shout out to Doug Polk. I think he's going to be coming back making some YouTube content because Charlie Carroll started making hands and he started talking about fuck GTO, and we guys know how Doug feels about that. So maybe there'll be like some hand review beef between, I don't really know what's going to happen with those two guys, but I'm excited to see Doug come back, and I'm sure Doug's going to break this hand down and say, well, this fold's terrible. So when we go through and look at the hand, we say, okay, well, is it a terrible fold? I'm sure there's a dynamic taking place between the two of those players at the table as Polychronopoulos is in position on win. So maybe there's a dynamic, or maybe there's been some hands that took place, or maybe one of them seen something from the other player that led them to believe that that she's just overbetting, or that she's going to overbluff in this kind of situation like that. So Polychronopoulos wanted to leave her out to dry, so to speak, and let her set herself up for failure once that river comes down. And also, he's got a very strong hand pre-flop, but once that flop comes down and once that turn comes down, we are beaten by quite a amount of hands in terms of all queens and 10-jack. And from playing some Nolan Hold'em, guys, I found out it's not only hard to make a straight on the flop, but it's also hard to make trips in any given hand. So while those hands are likely out there, you still have aces. You're probably not going to be folding at any point in time in this particular hand, especially big blind versus the button. So is this a good fold? Is this a bad fold? Are we being very results oriented about this? If Win's in the hand and she gets check raised there and she says, I know this guy has aces, or I know this guy has kings, and she folds the hand, I mean, listen, we got really lucky that we happened to catch it on camera. The camera angles, they were zooming in, zooming out. It was like some sort of 80s action movie. We got Stallone over here. We got Schwarzenegger over here. It's intense. To be fair, I mean, I don't really like the camera angles they did in this hand. It's like super up close, and it's kind of dramatic. Can't really see too much of what's happening. But maybe that's the next new thing for poker, guys. They do the zooming right inside your damn face like Jonah, Big J behind the camera right now. Might zoom in on me right now. So, but going over some comments that she made out there, and Win said that the way that I saw before flop, how he 3-bet me, and on the flop he checked quickly, made me think, what is he checking on the river? When he 3-bet me before the flop, he looked very certain. He didn't look like he was 3-betting me like that. Helped me. So my takeaway from that is, guys, is I got to make sure if I'm 3-betting from the big blind that I'm not giving away anything, because I know some people talk about live tells are a joke, live tells don't matter. I think from my experience, you certainly can pick up some things, whether you're picking up something that's true or picking up something that's false. You know, that's for you to be determined and decided, and for you to get better and better at as you play more live poker. Something I didn't really learn playing online was the idea of looking at different people and kind of seeing what they're going to do. And just for me playing a bunch of more live now is that you can definitely pick things up from players in terms of their body language, in terms of how they throw their chips in, and especially if you look at the patterns that they display over a session, there are some things that you're able to pick up. Now, whether that's right or wrong, or whether you're going to be good at doing that at first, I don't think you're going to be doing that at first. But there's certainly times where you might say, okay, I'm on the button here. I'm thinking about making a light 3-bet versus a middle position open. And you notice the small blind and the big blind look very disinterested in the hand. So maybe that might make you decide you want to just call because you don't think it's going to go multi-way. And you want to be heads up against a specific player. Maybe you think the small blind and big blind look kind of interested in the hand, so maybe you decide to 3-bet. And that's just one scenario and one situation that I particularly found. Maybe even a player to your right opens up a hand and they don't look that interested, but then they decide, okay, I'm actually going to raise here. So maybe in that spot you decide to go for a little lighter 3-bet. So I do believe some of these things matter a little bit. How much these things kind of matter, I'm not 100% sure myself yet, but I know people are bigger beliefs in these type of things, these sort of live tells or body language tells or whatever. Other people out there say it doesn't matter what the tells are, but I don't believe in that. I believe there are tells out there, and I'm trying to get better at that part of the live poker game myself. So then Win said, with the flop like King Queen 9 with a flush draw, I think on the river, which hand is he going to check? So when he check calls, what is he going to check on the river that he is not going to bet himself on the river? So then Win says, I think he's going to bet ace king because in a 3-bet pot, I could have a set or 2 pair. So he is going to check with aces. I think he c-bet with all draws. Basically, what Win's saying is that if he has ace king in this situation and he gets there on the river with the top 2 pair, she thinks that he might bet that hand for value after playing it the way he did. We could debate if that would actually happen or not, but I can definitely understand where she's coming from. Then she says, when Polychronopoulos checked the river, Win already thought about the situation and made up her mind. On the river in my head, I think I'm going to bet fold. And I got to tell you guys something. I've told myself about 25 million times, I'm going to bet fold on the river, and I fucking never bet fold on the river. I bet there, I go, if he check raising, I'm going to fold. I don't fold. You guys know, man. We're not about folding flosses around here. Great game, Potlin, they can have more blockers, so, sometimes I get a little paranoid about the blockers. But then she continues on that even though she had made up her mind before the check raise by Polychronopoulos, forced her to do so for her tournament life is on the line. It naturally wasn't easy, and it took her a bit of time to actually do it. It's very difficult because it's still, I'm button, and he has big blind. Usually it's a very difficult fold, but I think the only hand he can do that with are kings or aces. Only those hands he checks the flop, all other hands he is going to c-bet. Then Nguyen said, after thinking it over for some time, for me too, it was difficult, but I trust in my lecture. I think that might be a French word, because in lecture, I don't think we use that word, and I know that Thi and her husband are both French. So she says, I trust in my lecture, and she lays it down. And Polychronopoulos, you might ask, why does he show? I mean, I think that's epic. Think about this. If he doesn't show, we don't have this moment that's viewed there's hundreds of thousands of views right now. Everyone's talking about it. Walking around PCA, people are chatting about it. You see that fold? Oh my God, did she actually call? Like, what's going on? Could she see the cards? If she could see the cards, like, is there cheating happening here? Like, is this what GTO bots would do? What's happening here? So people are, I'm kind of excited that Polychronopoulos did decide to show this hand. And he says, so oddly enough, the last two orbits, I had shown down two relatively loose hands that I don't normally play, but I happened to play those hands and they got shown down. I won the pots, but I think I had a loose image. And then he said, the queen paired the turn. I thought that's probably pretty good for her. I checked, she bet, I called. And then the river was the ace, bringing the flush. And so I was like, well, I want to get all the chips. And I thought maybe the only way to get all the chips was to check jam. I figured she would overbet there, so I checked. Basically, he's saying if he bets out the river, she most likely is going to call with her flushes, or maybe with some full houses or some queens, and straight as well too. But he thought if he checked, she would be betting and sometimes be bluffing, sometimes be betting all those hands for value, and then she might bet call those hands too. So he decided the best way to get the most chips here, when we could debate that once again too, but checking or betting on the river in his position, I think both options are probably going to be pretty fine, especially when you have aces full in that spot. He says, I was trying to focus on my body and posture, just staring at the same spot at the table. I thought she could very well have a boat or a flush, but I wasn't really too concerned with it. I knew I had the best hand. I was just waiting for her to call. When she flipped over her hand and folded, I thought, man, she really earned this. I gotta wonder, guys. I don't necessarily look at it that way, where if an opponent makes a good fold, I'm gonna show them because I think they earned it. Sometime, maybe in that spot particularly, I might show, but kind of an interesting logic there. He says, I got to show her, I mean, poor girl's going to be eaten alive forever. I mean, maybe. Not forever, but it's going to hurt her. And the cameras are on. It's good for the game. I decided to show her. She made the correct laydown because she earned it. He also concluded, it's fun. It's why we're here playing poker, having fun. She played the hand better than I did, I guess. I hope she does well in this. That would be a great story. So very, very awesome to kind of get the feedback and the reactions from the two players involved in that hand, because, like I said, this might be one of the hands that one of the craziest hands we've seen in poker for a very long time. Probably one of the craziest folds that we've seen in quite a long time. And if you go to see what the Twitter reaction is, the reactions on Twitter are insane. People are talking about it. They're fired up. Like I said, hundreds of thousands of views on Instagram and Twitter and on YouTube for this hand. So this was kind of the main moment of the PCA so far, but we're still early. I think it's day 4 today. It's mid-afternoon here in the PCA. I just kind of wanted to investigate this hand, put something together for you guys out there. I'm sure people will be talking about this hand for, we know people don't have much of attention span anymore these days. So preparing for a live podcast with Perkins tonight, Bill Perkins. Don't know if I'm going to be streaming it live tonight or not, but I will let people know on my Twitter and Instagram. So thanks, guys, for watching. Give me your feedback. Let me know what you think, and take care. Peace out.